Okay, so unfortunately I had a bit of a major issue with this Photon 6X, where I had a FEP sheet puncture and a load of resin leaked out. I have a full-on screen protector and everything, so that bit was fine. But it had run down the front and had gone into, which I hadn't noticed, I'd wiped up as much as I could, but it had gone into and effectively ruined the resistive touch panel that sits over the LCD screen. And LCD screen was fine, so it would display what you normally get. That. But there's no touch panel on it now. But the touch panel was completely dead. You couldn't select any of the options or anything. For whatever reason, in their infinite wisdom, there's no web interface other than the app that you can get to send files to the printer. So there's no USB connection, there's no Ethernet, there doesn't seem to be any way of accessing the menu system to control the printer, do the tools, set the Z offset, set the UV power. There's no other way than via the front screen. So, simple solution, get another one from Anycubic, and that's what I would have done, except there aren't any in stock, and it could be a month or two before they do. So after a bit of investigation, I thought, it can't be that hard. Once I realised that it was the touch panel and there's nothing else wrong, I've just basically, as you can see here, it's not quite standard. Got some wires coming out off to a touch panel here that I bought for about £4 or £5. If I put that over there and get it roughly in the right place. Let's get it the right way around, roughly in the right place. There we go. Tools, detection. Obviously it's not perfectly aligned right now, but yeah, you can buy, this is a replacement 3.5 inch it's got to be resistive, not capacitive, resistive touchscreen, and I'll show you how to wire this in and repair this. Obviously if you've got resin into the LCD screen and that's had it, then it's a much bigger job, and you're going to have to start working out what all the pinouts are for the ribbon cable that drive the screen. You can see what I've had to do for the touch panel. It's just 4 wires, but yeah, if your screen's gone, it's a much bigger job to work out. Alright, so I'll get in a bit more detail about how we've done this, and hopefully it might help you out if you have a really nice printer that's turned into a very hefty paperweight because you can't do anything with it. The first thing you need to do is obviously remove the front panel from the printer, which is a couple of screws there, a couple of screws there, and there's also, holding that on, is the name plate. So there's a couple of screws on the bottom for that, then the screws on the side. That comes off the printer, and you'll find the touch screen is screwed to the back on these 4 screws holes there, which line up with these holes there. It'll be attached by the ribbon cable on the back, and it's a nice ZIF insert cable one, so it's the ones that pivot up rather than that you pull out. The ones that you have to sort of pull out to loosen the cable off, they're always snapping. The pivot ones are much better, so you just literally lift the black thing up like that, pull the ribbon cable out, and then the whole screen unit will come away. And the bit that we're interested in, I'll try and get it to focus, is right down in here. Now, I have taken a picture of this, so I'll stick that in the video now. So yeah, so there's 4 connections here, which are for the left, upper, right and lower resistive bars. that sit round the frame on here. And the way these screens work is you've got resistance, a level of resistance that gets measured between the bars either side here and the bars either side here when you touch it at a certain point, and that goes back down here into this, I suspect it's some kind of A to D converter, and that gets calculated and resolved to be an XY location of where you've touched, and that gets sent into the controller and, you know, modes the screen to the next setting based on where you touched. So when you buy these screens, I think, I can't remember how much I paid. I bought 2 of them just in case I damaged one or ruined it, which is easily done with these things when you're trying to solder to them. They come like this. It's got a clear thing that you can peel off on the back, and a peel off tab for the front as well. And the back, it's very hard to see on here. I mean, you probably can't see it, but there are two layers there. The back doesn't do anything, so this touchscreen only works one way around. And the way it works, which side is the touch side, is the side that you peel this tab off from. So it's this side. The other hint is from the text. It's the side that the text is the right way around. It's not this side when the text is back to front. So, how to wire it in next. So the way these are labelled on here is X left is the first one, Y upper the second one, X right the third one, and Y lower the fourth one. And as you can see on this screen, if you follow these connections here, the first one is a resistive bar that just goes around here and then is up the side. It looks like it's going all the way around, it's not, there's a break there. So the first one is X left, and the second one, you see, is Y lower. The third one is X right, and the fourth one goes all the way, it's not broken, it goes all the way to the top, is Y upper. So those basically need to be wired correctly to the board over here. If you do it incorrectly, depending on which way you do it, so if you, these sort of go in pairs. If you do the X left and right, but you've ended up doing them right and left, then the touch is mirrored left to right. If you do Y top and Y bottom, but you do it the other way around, Y bottom and Y top, then it'll be, when you're touching the top of the screen, it'll be registering in reality that you're touching on the bottom of the screen compared to what the display is showing. So you can get them wrong. If you pair an X, so that the 2 wires, so you've got the first and the third wire there for the X measurement. If you wire the first one to X and the other one to Y, the screen just won't do anything, it just doesn't register any touch at all. So like I say, we've got on here again, just to remind, you've got X left pin, you know, the first pin's X left and the third pin's X right, so they need to be wired to corresponding opposite things, either on that axis or that axis. And 2 and 4 also need to be wired to a corresponding pair, either that axis or that axis. And if you stick with those corresponding pairs, then you will get the touchscreen doing something, and you might need to experiment whether you've wired them exactly right or not. But you can see here, so this orange wire, you can see I've had to put orange, eventually going, I can't remember which one it's soldered to now, but it's oranges. The alternative to soldering, like I've done, is they come with this tab. If I can get it to focus, like that. You could tin that, and you could try to get it on there and then heat it up and flow the solder so they touch. The only problem is I tried that, and it's quite easy to overheat and put a bit of heat damage on the screen, which you might have seen in the video. The bigger issue though is the pitch of the connector on here, on this screen here. This pitch is slightly larger than the pitch on there, so it's very easy to bridge these pins here on the connectors there, and then nothing happens. And I'd done that, and I was almost about to give up, and my last ditch attempt was to solder wires individually to the contact patches on here, which, as you can see, I'll see if I can zoom in a bit more, see what it's going to do. Is it going to focus? There we go. It was quite a challenge because they're exceptionally close together, almost as close together as, if I can get my finger in here, where are we? There. Almost as close together as these tracks here for the ZIF connector. So it was not quite as close as that, but not far off. So it was a real challenge to solder those in there, and it pulls off very easily. So if you do want to solder them, you have to really take your time. Use a very fine tip soldering iron, and then continuity check to make sure you haven't shorted one wire to the other. The alternative is these tracks route over to this chip here onto these pins, so you could possibly, if you felt brave, solder it direct there instead, but I thought that was even more challenging than doing there, to be honest. So yeah, soldered there. Once they're on, because solder joints are quite weak, I've then put epoxy resin over there, which is twofold really. Stops the wires moving at all, and make sure that if they were going to move a little bit, you don't end up bridging two connectors together, because it's insulated everything. So once you've soldered those on and put that on there to the epoxy to stop them moving, I'd give yourself a decent length. I gave myself a bit too short to start with, and once I got it all working, it wasn't enough to fold the screen back over the display, so I had to put more in. So you give yourself a good, say, at least 10 centimeters on the wire, probably a little bit longer, maybe 15 centimeters. Give you plenty of room to maneuver the touch panel and put it back over the TFT screen. And yeah, solder those on, and then solder them to the other ones. A little bit easier to solder on this because the pin pitch is wider than it is on there. Then put your ribbon cable back in here. The blue side goes up, slide it in, and then you just push that back down. It shouldn't take any force to put it in, and it should go in really nicely. Just be delicate with it. You don't want to buckle any of the pins, and then it's straight in, and you're done. So as you saw at the beginning of the video, this now works. So I'm going to ensure that you put this the right way around, which is with the text readable the correct way around. I'm just going to put that back on there, and I think there's a couple of ways you could do it. I'm probably just going to put 4 little blobs of super glue and just glue it. You could use transparent 3M double-sided tape perhaps, but yeah, I think I'm just going to put a couple of spots of glue. Obviously you don't want to put anything that's compressing this side, because it'll just be registered as a touched all the time. So whatever you, and let me see, I'll see if I can get it to focus. Just one sec. Let's see. Nah, it's really difficult. It's not going to focus, I don't think. Or maybe it will. Nah, it's really... So the touch part is on this side. So this is just a substrate that it's just bonded to at the back. And actually what's good about these is the plastic. So when I was messing around with the damaged Anycubic screen, wondering what was going wrong with it, it ended up cracking, and that's because they've used plastic. Sorry, they've used glass as the substrate for the touch panel. So when I was sort of finding that if I flexed the panel slightly, and it seemed to start working again, I was wondering why that was. I was flexing the Anycubic one, you know, near the connectors and stuff, and then suddenly, and it cracked right across. And you, oh, that doesn't matter, does it? Well, it does, because the substrate is partially conductive. It has a conductive coating on it. So if you break the connections between this side and this side, because it's the conductive glass that, sorry, it's a conductive coating on the glass that actually gives you the varying resistance. If you break it, it just doesn't work. So yeah, so these are better because they seem to be made out of whatever it's put onto some kind of plastic acrylic. Anyway, right, I'm going to super glue that, and then I'll just finish the video showing you it working again, and job's a good one. Okay, there we go. So it's all back in place now. Just use 4 spots of super glue to glue the panel to the LCD. You could probably do different ways. I've used a tiny amount of super glue, so if it ever does fail again, I can prise it off with hopefully not too much damage. And look, I wonder whether it was on its way out for a while, this, because it seems super responsive now, whereas before it was not great at all. So yeah, everything's brilliant. What I might do is put some kind of little shroud, you know, like that, just round the screen. Maybe print one on one of my FDM printers, just so that if resin ever does seep round, it's not going to go into here and touch it and destroy it like it did last time. But yeah, it's great. In fact, I think these resistive panels are actually better than the ones that come with the printer itself. Okay, well, I hope you like, subscribe. There's lots of other 3D printing content and other bits and pieces on my channel. Bye for now.